short while ago, I had a task to articulate in a letter the feelings that my wife and I have towards our 18-year-old as she was on the journey with her school to Poland for Jewish heritage and history. One page, one letter to encapsulate all of our feelings and emotions towards her. And when I started to write, I realized that the letter, amazingly, was being written for me. I'd like to talk a little bit about today, the letters that we write to our children.
Why were you writing a letter to your children? Why were you writing a letter?
So for those of us who have been on a Poland journey, there is a particular moment in time where we are immersed, often in a dark woods somewhere, and our hearts, our minds, our souls even, are particularly open. And it's long been the custom of using that particular lens of communicating to the people that mean most to us, the things that we haven't had a chance to say in our lifetime. And often we'll find ourselves taking out our phones, making those phone calls, calling our loved ones, sending a message, maybe to those who we haven't even communicated with at all in quite a while. Our daughter has just finished her high school career, just completed her A-levels, and she's joining her school for a journey to Poland. And the school said, Feldman's, make sure that when your daughter, when Malka will be in that dark woods somewhere, we can produce for you the letter that you want to communicate to her, what she means to you. Jacqueline, my wife, turned to me and she said, this seems like an Abba job. This is a job for a dad. Go in and take a crack at it.
I find that very hard to think about what I would write in that letter.
Instinctively, I turned to Jacqueline and I said, no way. I love our daughter. She's our world. It's impossible for me to try to put down on paper what she means to us, what she means to me. And like any good wife, she challenged me and she said, this is an Abba job. This is a job for you. And she kissed me on my head and pushed me back into my seat. And she said, you got this. And I sat down, I looked at the screen, and I started to type.
Just thinking about what one would write. How much were you thinking about the Holocaust and the Shoah, or how much were you thinking about your relationship with Malka, or things you'd wanted to said and not said before? What goes into a letter like that?
I had no idea where I was going to start. What I did know is that this is not a Holocaust letter. I am not writing a letter to our daughter about the context of where she is. I'm writing a letter to her about the context of her stage of life. She, in my mind, was journeying to Poland as part of her journey of leaving our home and moving on towards her independence, towards her gap year in Israel, towards effectively Jacqueline and myself beginning to let go of our hold and our relationship with her as a child rather than her as an independent young woman.
So how much was the letter about her and how much was it about you?
The truth is, I am very intent on holding that letter and its contents very close to my heart. As you can imagine, as a parent yourself, what makes a cherished relationship is not what is shared outward, but instead what is held within the family frame. The process of writing the letter, though, awoke within me a very, what I consider to be profound realization about the role of parenting, or really the role in general of our ability or our responsibility to convey and to communicate different things to the people that we love, the people that we are responsible for, the people who we are connected with. And I found through the process of writing the letter that 18 years on, and I'm going to say this and it sounds quite harsh, it would have been too late. I couldn't have put in that letter what I wanted to say if I hadn't already been saying it in a variety of different ways throughout the raising of our daughter.
That's really interesting. When our kids were born, we made them a time capsule and we put into it lots of things, like I think there's a first pair of shoes in there, there's a newspaper on the day they were born, there's like, you know, like a TV guide and stuff that we wouldn't even use now. It was really interesting. We haven't opened the one up for my daughter yet, but for my son we opened it. But what wasn't in there was any reflection on us as parents, any reflection on the journey that we were going to embark on the journey that he was going to go through. It's very interesting thinking about that we didn't think like that maybe we should have done.
I can't remember which rabbi it was, but some rabbi, could have been any given rabbi, when he was approached by a particular student who was expecting a child and said, Rabbi, tell me everything I need to know about how to raise this child well. And the rabbi kind of grabbed him and shook him and said, unfortunately, my son, it's already 25 years too late. You should have been doing the work that you need to do to make yourself into a good parent within those 25 years before you were blessed to now create life and to bring it into the world. And I think therefore that's right. There's no point in that time capsule to say what parenting means to you. Either you and your wife were already up for whatever was going to be, or you would emerge and become. But putting in your hopes and your aspirations, either it was in the system or it's not in the system, putting on paper probably wouldn't be worth the ink it was written on.
And also, relaying back, it seems a stupid comment now that I've made, because I'm like, how would I possibly know what parenting would be involved? And in fact, I think you got it the right way around here, communicating when they are leaving the nest, for want of a better phrase, might be the time to set that down or to think about it a bit more, because you've got that distance of time.
Can I share a sharp contrast to the process that I went through, the process, in fact, that you went through as well, just from the other side, looking towards the raising of a child and the hope that you'll have for them. So you started at year 0. I'm looking back from year 18. In sharp contrast to either of those is a famous nemesis, a famous anti-hero, which is found in the Torah portion named Korach. Korach the great rebel, Korach the great usurper. Now Korach, even though he thought he was a very distinguished person, ended up in ruins. He decided to challenge the authority of Bushey, of the leader, led a revolt against him, and it ended horribly. And the commentaries ask the question using a verse in the Torah. And the verse in the Torah, which I think is found, not even in Korach, maybe it's found all the way later on in Pinchas, it says, Uvenei Korach lo yamusu, or something like that. And by the way, in retelling the story of Korach, and the children of Korach didn't die. Now, why do we need to know that the children of Korach didn't die? And our rabbis teach us it's because Korach had a vision. And Korach's vision was that his children were going to go on to be great people. They were going to be so great that they would contribute to the book of Psalms, writing their own chapters, Lam Natseach L'nei Korach Mizmor, which are quoted over the Rosh Hashanah liturgy right before we blow shofar. quoted when we are sitting in the Shiva house and we are saying our prayers to comfort our mourners and evoke the presence of Almighty. Korach saw through his prophecy that his children would be extraordinary. And therefore Korach thought to himself, if my children are going to be extraordinary, clearly I must be an extraordinary parent. And therefore I have full reign to do what I'm doing, because it's going to end well. After all, my children will end up brilliantly. And therefore, Korach took parenting as a permission slip. Rather than seeing parenting as a responsibility, he saw it as a destiny. That if my children are amazing, therefore they must have had amazing parents. So rather than Korach, either, when his children were born, thinking, how am I going to raise them well? Or looking back when they had become of age and look back and say, what did I do, or what did I communicate to them, which hopefully helped them grow as individuals and into who they could become? Instead, Korach wiped his hands and he said, as long as I know that they're going to be great, must be that I was great, and I absolve myself of any real responsibilities of education, of modeling, and all the things that we know that you need to do as a parent. What to say, what not to say, what to show them, what not to show them. Korach, therefore, was the anti-parent. He was the one who allowed his children to write their letter, and he could piggyback on top of it.
Should we be writing letters for ourselves?
That brings up the question around whether we have to raise ourselves instead of looking towards our parents to guide us. Thinking about my own daughter, thinking about her own independence effectively. And again, I'm not sharing the content of the letter. But if we look at what our patriarch Jacob did with his children when he was on his deathbed, and he turned to them and he gave what's referred to as the Birchat Yaakov in the portion of Vayechi, the blessings of Jacob. And Jacob didn't bless them to say, you should do this, you should do that. Instead, he blessed them by saying to them, this is who you are, and this is what you're not. And what he was doing was saying, these are your talents, these are your gifts. I believe in you. Now go and do something with them. And in that sense, what Jacob was saying is, now write your own letters. That doesn't mean he was absolved as a parent. It means that he had reached a stage where he had packed his children with enough, going back to self-belief, but with enough of their own inner sense of self, that then they could go on and write that letter.
As in, he was preparing them to be reflective and to be self-reflective. And that is one of the greatest skills that a parent can give any child.
Yeah, as you're saying that to me, I'm second guessing myself in terms of, have I done a good enough job?
You think I'm not doing the same? Good conversation.
And maybe in that sense, it's easy to write a letter and then say, I believe in you. I hope I did enough of my part.
Yeah.
I don't know. What I do know is that the letters we write to our children, our parenting, it seems to matter a lot and encapsulates the tears, the laughter, the late nights, the worrying phone calls, the guilt trips,
Keep it going.
the prolonged silences. But that's okay. That just makes a great letter. There's nothing wrong with having a full letter which makes up our relationship with the people that we love. The risk is that we turn into the Korachs of this world and we wash our hands. We say, oh, it's the schools.
Yeah.
We say, oh, it's the rabbis. We say it's the peer groups. We say it's their smartphones. We say it's the camps that they go on. I don't know. The youth movements that they're associated with. Effectively, we term parenting as a signposting towards everyone else that's going to parent our child, except for us. Those are all, and again, I'm being harsh for the second time, but I'm being harsh to myself. Those are all Korachisms, where we effectively remove ourselves and our responsibilities as parents, and at best, if we're lucky enough, try to ride the coattails of our children, rather than ourselves. As I'm sharing this with you, and as I reflected on this letter which I've written, did I do a good enough job? That's the question which is coming through my mind again and again. Or if I had to rate 1 out of 10, what number would I put in terms of how present was I as a parent? This is the best answer I will give. I'm not going to put a number on it. That's between me and me. What I can say is I did feel that that letter was genuine. And that makes me feel half good about my parenting. I didn't have to contrive a letter. I didn't have to stretch things. And if I'm going to be particularly brave when our daughter reads that letter, and she may choose or not choose to communicate with us about it, that's up to her. But maybe I'll let myself believe that resonated with her. And the things which we shared will mean something to her. And she'll see that she was loved. It's about the letters that we write to our children. What's the message for all of us? Don't wait until the letters have been written by themselves. Don't wait until our influence is no longer as present as it is. Whatever it means to write those letters, and I'm not literally talking about taking out a pen and paper. Whatever we can do to actively, through what we model, what we reflect, what we communicate about our values, about bringing out their strengths, about challenging them appropriately, whoever the them is. It could be our children, it could be our grandchildren, it could be our spouse, it could be anyone that we're associated with that we feel we want to write a letter to. Don't wait. Because if you do, then you miss the opportunity. And if there's any lesson that I can take from my experience of writing this letter and Korach's missed opportunity, is that we should be engaging with writing these letters. That should be at the forefront of our minds. And then the rest is outside of our hands, as it should be, because all we're doing is trying to impart something, not take full responsibility for the future of those who are nearest and dearest to us. Let's engage in writing those letters. Let's make sure we do it before it's not too late. And let's believe that that's enough.